You don't own anything as a gamer. Those digital purchases, just services. Don't go thinking you have the right to something you actually paid for. You're not buying a product, you're paying us monthly or annually for the privilege of access. Don't worry about which games you get or when you get to play them. We'll handle that. Just keep consuming like a good farm animal. That's not the status quo yet. But make no mistake, if nothing changes, that's exactly where these corporations want you. Compliant, farmable cattle. The EU just told stop killing games? No. But that's not the real story. The real story happened 13 days before that. So here's what actually happened. June 16th, the European Commission announces it will not propose legislation requiring publishers to keep games playable after they stop selling them. Just a flat no. But rewind 13 days, and apparently Ubisoft, alongside Video Games Europe, the lobbying group that represents Nintendo, Activision, Microsoft, and basically every major publisher you can name, sat down with the Commission behind closed doors, invitation only, and surprisingly, Stop Killing Games was not invited. 2 weeks. That's the gap between the people with the most to lose from this law getting a private audience and the public getting a press release telling them no. I'm not going to pretend that this is a coincidence, because nobody with basic brain function actually believes that it would be. We are watching the exact thing this movement was created to fight. Corporations deciding what you're allowed to own in a room you weren't invited into. The Commission did give reasons, 3 of them, and none of them survive being said out loud. Reason number 1, intellectual property rights. Under EU copyright law, rights holders enjoy exclusive rights over their creations. In addition to copyright, other intellectual property rights may also be relevant, as they may protect different visual and technological aspects of a video game. Really? Who's arguing against that? Nobody. I have a physical copy of Final Fantasy VIII in my hands right now. I can go pop it in a PS1 and play it. Did I just suddenly own Square's IP or the technological aspects of the game? It's a product I bought and I get to keep it and play it when I want. Just like so many other games that I have from the 90s that I can still play whenever I want without needing someone's permission. You know, like any other product you buy. How complicated is that? They're just answering a question nobody asked. And reason number 2, existing consumer laws already protect you. But we already ran this experiment. It's called The Crew. Delisted, pulled from every library, 0 refunds, 0 consequences. That's not some loophole or a gap in the law. That's just the law failing. That's the exact case this movement was built around. And the third point, and this is the one that should actually make you laugh. Instead of legislation, they want a voluntary industry code of conduct. Voluntary. From the same industry that just went behind your back, behind closed doors, making sure nothing binding ever happened, those same people will make up best practices that advocate for us and follow them. Yeah, I would believe that if I had double-digit IQ. And there's a big focus on Ubisoft in this. And here's the part that makes them look really stupid. They already proved this works. The Crew 2 got a hybrid mode, offline play added after the fact, because apparently it was possible the whole time. So the company that spent the whole fight insisting you can't expect them to keep games playable is the same company that quietly went and did it. Why fight this hard against something you already built? Ubisoft's director of subscriptions said it himself back in 2024, 2 years ago. Listen to this. We all need to get comfortable with not owning our games if subscription services are going to take off. That's not a leaked memo. That's a decision maker openly stating his anti-consumer goal, saying the quiet part out loud, on the record, to IGN. This is a company that needed Tencent to bail them out to stay solvent. They're about to launch Black Flag Remake, and they desperately needed to sell, choosing this exact moment to fight dirty and do all they can to tell their own customers they never really want to commit to allowing them to own anything to begin with. You couldn't write a worse PR strategy if you tried. This is a company that is by all means struggling, and they really want to change the narrative to be that buying games is buying a service. Buying a game should never mean you own anything, as far as they're concerned. You buy a license to play the game for as long as we allow you to. Even in their reporting, if you remember AC Shadows, they constantly reported the amount of players, not sales, and that's because that amount included those who subscribed to Ubisoft Plus. In which case, those numbers of players aren't numbers of those who paid $70 for the game. It includes those subscribers who will play it for a month and maybe cancel at a fraction of its price. But who cares if all they're focused on is numbers that can sound good when told to shareholders? Such a short-sighted, foolish position to take, to actively try to make an enemy out of the millions that play their games, or at least used to. Hell, they don't even want games to be at $70. They want to jack them up to 80 or 90 and call them quadruple A games because of the insanely expensive development costs, aka stupid, reckless spending. But again, who cares? It's not like you're paying 70 or 80 for a product. It's just a license to play a game for as long as they allow you. Give me a break. So did the movement actually lose? Here's the thing. The Commission was never the only road to this. Parliament is a separate body, and Parliament has been the one place in this entire fight that's actually been on the public's side. 45 members of European Parliament have already signed a call for legislative action. Ross Scott's read on this is simple. They have majority support without needing the Commission's blessing at all, because the plan now is to push this through the Digital Fairness Act instead, which Parliament controls directly because it's a law that already exists. And the EU isn't even the only board this is being played on. California's AB 1921 already cleared the Assembly and is heading to the state Senate right now, completely independent of whatever the Commission decided. We lost a battle, but we didn't lose the war. And treating this like the end of the story is exactly what the companies who got the private meeting want you to believe. As this lady says it loud and clear.
The Commission said this, so now we sort of lost. Like, no, guys. Especially you didn't lose against the Commission because you have the power of calling them out on it and making them super famous, because now McGrath and Virkkunen pissed off over 1 million of people and more are coming to be pissed off. So feel free to make them famous as you did with MEP Axel Voss with Copyright Directive. I do remember the memes. You know, I'm not instigating hate against the commissioners, but I'm just saying you have the opportunity for public pressure and public accountability when you demanded something, and this is what you got. You've read the press release. This is what you got. So yeah, I think that's your role.
This commission pissed off more than 1 million people who signed for SKG, and we have the opportunity for public pressure. Ross Scott said, "Do not be discouraged by this answer whatsoever. It's what we were anticipating, and unfortunately, it's exactly what happened. So we can still go ahead and get amended into the Digital Fairness Act. We have majority support in Parliament. Everything is still on course to go through with that. And in fact, a few hours ago, the Protect Our Games Act was announced to be officially moving forward, one step closer to ensuring that buying games means we have the right to keep them. And that's after clearing Privacy, Digital Technologies, and Consumer Protection Committee. But I don't want you to think the grass is much greener in America. The Entertainment Software Association, the ESA, which is basically Video Games Europe's American cousin, they immediately took action against the California bill as if we just wandered straight into their aggro range. They called it misguided. So let's look at this misguidance. They claim that this threatens modern gameplay experience by misunderstanding how online services work. Yeah, educate us all about how they work, please. According to them, when a publisher decides to shut down an online game, poor them will be forced to choose between keeping it running forever or rebuilding the game to work without technical support or providing a full refund to everyone, no matter how long ago they played or how much they spent in that game. So if you buy an online game that requires a server connection, like an extraction shooter, for example, Marathon, that means the developers have to keep those servers running forever. You freaking greedy consumer that lacks the fundamental understanding of how games are built. With all the cost of licensing and services and music and all that goes into making a game, they will then be drained by having all that maintained forever. And poor them, every dollar spent will now be a dollar taken away from a future game they would otherwise build. You know, like the recent case of wisely saving the money you spent on Destiny to pump more developers into Marathon. And you know who would be harmed the most, according to them? Smaller developers. You know, more than 2/3 of video game software companies in the US operate with less than 10 employees. Those would really be in danger if this bill passes. Well, those small studios manage their money far better than the big, greedy so-called AAA studios. They don't waste it on big fancy studios in the most expensive cities in the world, or waste it on some garbage sensitivity consultancy. Please explain to us how Sandfall Interactive will suffer if they let us keep Expedition 33. What a disgusting load of garbage. Imagine if any of that was true even. Imagine if anything they said is even relevant to what Stop Killing Games is actually asking for. This is a full-on, cowardly, intentional straw man. They fully pretend that this is about live service games, which it's not. Every single game falls under this same issue. We don't have physical games anymore. They conditioned us with convenience and relative cheaper prices to think of digital purchases as a default. Those purchases still require a server to download from, or some features even in a single-player game that won't work unless you're online, like Death Stranding or even Elden Ring. No matter how old my car is, the manufacturer cannot knock on my door and take it away because they don't make parts for it anymore. You know, because that would be too expensive for them, and then they won't be able to design and build the latest model. Nobody is asking for permanent patches or updates or content. And to pretend that a game remaining functional and accessible is the same cost even as a game being actively developed and maintained is such a dishonest, cowardly misrepresentation of the facts. And the licensing argument is also complete BS. We've seen games get delisted before, like Alan Wake or most of the Forza games, or even GTA 4. But to pretend that removing a game from being available for purchase is the same as taking away a game people already bought is just another dishonest, wild misrepresentation. Everything proposed for consumer protection is about games in the future. It's not aiming to retrospectively force developers somehow to revive all their dead games. Copyright and IP protections have nothing to do with this. Everything they said is reframed in a dishonest way to pretend that we're talking about something completely different. Normally, this is where I'd ask you to like and subscribe. Do that, obviously, it helps. But that's not what actually matters here. What matters is that you need to talk about this. Not to other gamers, but more importantly, normies. The friends who don't watch this stuff or play games. The parents who just got asked for $40 more for FIFA points or some in-game currency their kid swears they need. Tell them what's actually happening. Tell them this isn't a gamer issue, it's a consumer right issue wearing a gamer skin. Make them aware of this clear assault on basic consumer ownership rights, so that this topic gets exposed to as many people as possible. Because the people doing this don't have an army. They have lawyers, lobbyists, and a closed door. The only thing they're actually afraid of is this getting too loud before they can quietly kill it. They can only leverage their corruption and money. At least we can leverage our numbers. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next video.